Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Improved Podcast, the official podcast of Classic Studios. I'm your host, Chase Collins, and we are full steam ahead with our month of fitness programming. This week, we have Michael on the podcast who talks about his journey with health and fitness, specifically how he was able to lose over 50 pounds with intermittent fasting. He actually took the advice that Brian gave him. So if you listened to the last podcast and weren't convinced, I think you'll really enjoy this one because, yeah, Michael took Brian's advice and had amazing results. There's time codes in the description if you want to jump around. But what are your goals for this week? Are you enjoying the new year? Is 2023 going good for you? I hope so. Like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I was sick, so I've been fighting off a bit of a cold and stuff like that, but I'll talk about more of that in the outro, so be sure to stick around if you want to hear about my goals for this week, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Next week on the podcast, we have another thing, fitness related. It's going to be great. All right, I hope you enjoy this with Mike. Peace.
Improved Podcast. Improved Podcast. Improved Podcast. Improved Podcast.
Anyway, we can talk about like the exercise and stuff.
Okay.
Fitness, I think is a better term.
Yeah, I thought maybe like a good place to start it off was during COVID, everyone put on a COVID 30, I think.
Oh
I
yeah.
was definitely in that group. I went from I started lifting in like 2019, I guess, like October 2019, and then throughout that year till like maybe January 2021, I was like up to 205 pounds, and I'm like
Oh wow.
5'10", so I
Yeah.
was definitely a heavy boy. I was bulking for
That's
like a whole year.
that's skinny for me, but
Yeah, right.
if I could be 205 pounds, I'd be happy.
Yeah, it
but
it
yeah, I know what you're saying, man. Uh, yeah, like so I kind of did like a freshman 15, and then a sophomore 15. No. No, probably like starting college and then starting a job. There was another 15. And then the pandemic, there was another 15 for me. So
Yeah.
it's like it adds up. And I just got to a point where I'm like, if I continue on this trajectory, I'm just gonna be miserable the rest of my life.
Mm.
And I was just like, I knew I needed to make like a serious like lifestyle change. And it was just hard for me to like figure out something that works. Because it was a struggle for me to like have time for fitness and having a full-time job and whatever. Uh, and it's all I've always struggled to like watch my weight, so to speak, I guess in general. Because I've tried like the calorie counting thing, and that never really worked for me.
Yeah.
Like I remember in community college, I went through a phase of like exercising more and watching my weight, and I think I ended up losing like 15 pounds at one point. But like with the calorie counting, it's so easy to like fall off the like the wagon, and then like none of it matters after like a week. You could
Yeah.
screw it all up really fast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think with like the gaining weight thing in general, with most people that struggle with that, it it's really easy to like slip into that. It doesn't take much to like over time just keep on packing the pounds.
Mhm.
Like it could be like you're eating a little bit too much in a single day, or you have one day where you eat like 3 days worth of food. Like one day where you splurge too much, and drinking doesn't help at all,
Yeah.
especially with the craft brew. That's
Yeah.
actually probably a huge contributor for a lot of people. Uh, but anyway, it's an easy trap to get set in, and I was just like, I need to get out of this. And it's actually our buddy Brian that helped me a lot. Like I kind of blame him for all of it because he was like, "Have you ever tried intermittent fasting? It's like the easiest way to lose weight." Like, well, I don't know. That might not sound right, but
I think that's what
but
he said.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and it ended up being the only effective way to lose weight. I don't know if it's necessarily easy. Uh, it's easy in that you don't have to physically do anything or think about anything
Mm-hmm.
other than not eating. So Brian was like, "You should try fasting," and because I told him like I really want to lose weight, I just don't really know how to, at least effectively. So he's like, "Try fasting." Sent me a YouTube video, which I could put in the link if we want post facto.
Yeah, send me the
Great.
link.
Yeah, it's like all the science behind it and like why it's good for you and everything. And there are countless benefits and everything. But yeah, I did that combined with working out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Uh, and long story short, over the course of a year and a half, hell, I haven't even done the math in a while. Let's do this.
Well, yeah, and just while you're doing that math, so you recognize that you had to make a lifestyle change, and you sort of like foresaw the trajectory on which your life was headed, and you're like, "Whoa, I
I
gotta
was like,
turn this train
yeah,
around."
because I wasn't
That's
having
awesome.
fun in the moment. I'm like, it's only gonna get freaking worse from here.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, let's see. And hopefully this all just inspires other people to do it. Like I'm not saying any of this to brag or anything. Like it's kind of embarrassing for me to talk about. But so at my worst, uh, I was like maybe a tad over like 270. Like it was not pretty. So let's
And
do
how tall are you?
270. I'm like 6'2" on a good day.
Nice.
The
Okay.
right shoes on.
Yeah, yeah, right.
uh, so 270 minus, and I weighed myself yesterday. I was 212. So that, so in a year and a half, I've kept off 60 pounds. So that's
That's
nice.
awesome. That's
And
so sick.
thanks, dude. Yeah,
Congratulations.
no looking back for me, like I never want to be that way again. Like it sucked.
Yeah. And what
and,
yeah, good.
and I just want more people that struggle with that to acknowledge how bad it is because
Mhm.
it is bad. It's not a good thing. Uh, if you're happy that way, if it works for you, I guess whatever works for you. But I think if people are honest with themselves, it's like you'd be
Yeah.
doing things a lot better and feeling better because it adds like depression too and like just the chemical imbalance that happens when you're overweight and you
Mhm.
can't like even walk up the stairs without like uh, that
Getting
kind of
winded.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just not good. But anyway, I was like, I need to make a lifestyle change. And yeah, the intermittent fasting is the first thing that I've come across, like personally for me, that actually worked over a long period of time. And you just start it like incrementally. I think the first time I fasted, it was just I want to say 12 hours, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Maybe, which isn't it's been a while since I've thought about it. Uh maybe it's 24. Yeah, I want to say 24 was the first time I tried it.
What? So you
And
just
yeah, so you just have like I wanted to start it on Monday because Mondays suck anyway. And
right.
I was working from home, so it's really easy to do this working from home because like you're sitting around a desk all day anyway. Anyway, uh, so you eat a meal, say at like 8 p.m. the night before you want to start,
Mhm.
and then you just don't eat again till 8 p.m. the next day. And that's how I had kept track of it. Is like, okay, this is my last meal until this time tomorrow. And
Wow.
so I started it one time a week for the first week. just to like ease into it. And usually I skip breakfast anyway, so it wasn't that much of a stretch. It's like I only have to add like 8 more hours or something like
Ooh.
that. Uh, so the next week I did Monday and then I did Wednesday. And like when you're at your peak, fat, it, you like the first 20 pounds just falls right off you. Like
Wow.
super easy. And that's like motivating, like, oh, this is fun. And then the more and more weight you lose, the harder it is to lose that weight.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't explain why. That's more of a Brian thing,
Right,
but
right.
so yeah, the first week I did once, second week I tried 2 days, and then I think I kept the 2 days for about a month. And then over time you just add more and more. And like I needed to lose the weight. So and along with the exercise, like weightlifting helped a lot too. Like I emphasize that, but I want to focus on the diet thing because I think diet is way more important than exercise.
Yeah,
At
for
least
sure.
like uh if you have that weight issue and you're trying to fix it, focus on diet first.
Mm-hmm.
And like just definitely go to the gym, but don't make that your focus. Just make it like a discipline of like as long as you're there and doing something. At least that's my philosophy. Like as long as you're just there in the beginning and you're doing something and you're doing it consistently, uh, that's what worked for me. And like creating a new lifestyle, creating new habits.
Yeah.
Uh, and I sound like a hypocrite to myself right now because I fell off the bandwagon in October. The wagon. Yeah. But I need to start my routine back up. Anyway, where was yeah, so the intermittent fasting, uh, I got to the point where I was fasting 24 hours every day, 5 days a week. Like during the week, that was my routine. I would just have the one meal every day, and I'd have you call it a meal, but it was like a 3 hour window every day where I would eat. So it was like from 6 to 8, or maybe 2 hour window. I could
Wow.
eat anything that I wanted. I could eat in that window. So you're not calorie counting
Mm-hmm.
because you could overeat one of the days and you just lose it again fasting over time anyway.
Right.
Uh, in the video that we'll put in the link, uh, that explains it better because I'm a dum dum and can't explain it. So like let me try to though. In a given week, you say the average is like 2,000 calories a day
Mm-hmm.
is like the recommended weight, and it's different for different body sizes and stuff and metabolisms. But let's say 2,000 calories a week. That's I can't do math. Pull out the
Well,
calculator.
2,000 calories a day, so that's like
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, uh,
10,000 for a
times
work week.
7. So that's 14,000. Yeah, in a week. So as long as you're under the 14,000 per week, you're going to be losing weight.
Mhm.
So you could have like a calorie surplus one day by sheer accident of just eating whatever you want in that window.
Mhm.
But over the course of the week, odds are you're going to be under that because it gets harder and harder to eat more the more your stomach shrinks. So you're like, you don't even want to eat that much. Uh, but yeah, being at that weekly calorie deficit helps. And if you're just not eating food for most of the week, like only in that short window,
Yeah.
you don't even really have to think about any of it other than like I can't eat until this window.
Yeah.
And having that like really stupid mindset behind it helped me because like I don't like thinking about any of this stuff. Just like simplifying it to a point of like that helped me.
No, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same philosophy around drinking that Brian and I have talked about, and you've, experienced as well, of just it's the easiest thing to not do something.
Yeah.
at
That
at
makes sense. Yeah.
at the end of the day, like you're making a choice to, pick up that drink or, stuff your face or whatever. But building in those habits and those routines of um, only eating during a certain timeline. And like, I think you hit the nail on the head with, the most important, if you're really struggling with weight and you're, way overweight, the easiest thing to, curb that is your calorie intake, right? It's a simple equation. If you eat fewer calories than you consume on a daily basis, you're going to lose weight. It's like math at that
Oh
point.
yeah.
Um, so if you really want to see some like quick uh results, I guess, yeah, curving that or implementing a calorie deficit throughout the week. And like what you said again about the uh looking at it from like a week perspective as opposed to like a daily perspective, I think folks have found to be a lot easier to manage. Like when you're working with 14,000 calories for the year or the week, working with 14,000 calories for the week.
Probably need that for the year.
Yeah, dang, that would be like a
Oh, you
peanut.
die. Yeah.
But yeah, if you're working towards that 14,000 calorie goal, like it's it's easier to have like one big win for the week as opposed to like a daily loss if you're always going over that 2,000.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's definitely some mind games you can play to like encourage yourself to keep going.
Oh, for sure. And like with the fasting thing, uh the key is easing into it, especially if you want to do I think at my peak, I did like 72 hours straight fast, like a 3-day fast.
That's so
Uh
impressive.
s- thanks. It really isn't.
I think it is.
uh
I couldn't do that, dude.
I
I
just
want to try
didn't
though. I want to try.
I just didn't do a specific activity for 3 days straight. That's how I viewed
Yeah.
it. uh, but you definitely have to ease yourself into it and build up a tolerance of fasting because it definitely screws you up a little bit.
Like in
Not
what
in a
way?
bad way, uh, but like once your body enters ketosis or whatever and starts like consuming itself.
Mhm.
'Cause that's what fasting does. When people do keto, they're just eating like the meat and cheese and dairy products or whatever, if that's right. I'm no expert. And they do it, I think it takes a month straight of just those uh, ingredients or whatever for your body to enter ketosis. And I don't really know the science behind it. But the benefit of fasting is it only takes 24 hours for your body to enter that ketosis phase of it. Your body starts consuming itself instead of consuming the calories available in your stomach.
Mhm.
And that's the key is your body starts eating your own fat.
Right.
Uh
As opposed to consuming like from a the carbs and like the sugars that you're consuming with like bread and uh foods like that, you're starting to consume like the fats that's stored on your body.
yeah. Cuz we eat food because that's energy and we combust that to like fuel ourselves throughout the day.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any of that in you, then oh shit, we need to go to the fat, and then that fuels you. And
Mhm.
I say it takes a bit to get used to because I mean hunger isn't in itself like a good feeling, you know.
Right.
But you kind of trick yourself into like liking it, and you almost get addicted to it. Like, oh, this is fun. Let's see
Yeah.
how little I can eat.
That's
Like what when you get
wild.
in that stuck in that mindset of like that was my weekly routine for months.
Mhm.
And it was still like a very after the first 20 pounds, maybe 30 pounds, it was a very gradual dip. Because
Mhm.
I was like torturing myself a little bit, but not really, because I would go back and like just eat a ton of food anyway. Sorry, I said a bad word.
Right.
uh, but especially if you're doing like the 24-hour straight fast and really in the 2 days straight. And I think I only did the 3 days straight like once or twice because it is a lot. Uh, your body definitely feels totally different, and you get a little lightheaded, and
Mm.
you can also enter states of like euphoria. It's kind of weird.
Whoa.
Like I want to stray away from using the term high, but you do get like kind of a like
Like a
dopamine hit
Yeah, like a
in a
runner's
weird way.
high.
Yeah, like a faster's high. And like monks do it. They practice like they do week-long fasts,
That's
and it
wild.
becomes like a spiritual experience. Uh Especially if you combine it with like sensory deprivation. But anyway, that's a
Mhm.
whole can of worms in itself.
Yeah.
Uh but there are a lot of health benefits other than losing the weight to fasting. Uh Let me think of them. Uh, oh, it like regenerates all of your cells because when your
Right.
body is like consuming itself, it's regenerating new cells or something like that. And I'm no expert. You
Yeah.
gotta watch the link in
Yeah,
the
watch the video. Shout out
channel.
to what is that the snake diet video?
No, no.
Oh, okay. That's the only
I
one I think I've seen.
It might take me a second to find it again,
That's all right.
but yeah.
Um, but you also mentioned like the mental health aspects as well. You were,
Oh yeah.
struggling with just like, being unhappy with your body, like self-image issues and all that. And how has that sort of improved or changed as a result of what you had to go through?
I definitely have a lot more confidence in myself now. Uh, like tenfold. And it wasn't really an image thing because at the time I didn't really care about what I looked like.
Mm.
Uh, it was more just like a chemical imbalance, you know.
Yeah, and that's much harder to like describe or like categorize,
Yeah,
I suppose. It's just like an overall feeling of
yeah. It's like the happy juice wasn't flowing
mm,
regularly, you know,
interesting.
if that makes sense.
Well, I wonder. I want to explore like why that is or what that really means, right? Do you think it's because when you're eating foods all the time like that without any constraints on them, I guess you're sort of constantly getting like a steady stream of dopamine or whatever it is because you're feeding yourself. It's like okay, that's I don't know. I think a lot of people eat to you know feel good. And I
Oh
guess if
yeah,
you're constantly doing that, you suddenly become like baselined, and now your highs aren't as high and your lows aren't as low.
that's definitely an element of it. Like, it's definitely what you eat. It's like say fast food, for instance. Like, I think everyone in America has had fast food, and if you haven't, you probably live under a rock or something. But
You're probably lying.
like it's like you are what you eat. You know,
Yeah.
if you're eating this processed garbage loaded with sugar and fake
Hmm.
stuff, your body is gonna become that in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not like totally literally, but uh
Spiritually.
spiritually. No, it's like gut biome stuff.
Mm.
Uh, because if your body's used to ingesting that, like your body will adapt to anything, even if it's not designed to consume this like processed garbage from hell. It'll it'll become used to working on it. Your body essentially works on overdrive to digest all that stuff, and it
Interesting.
causes that's another thing. I'm glad I remembered it. It causes a lot of inflammation, like all over your body, like a little bit of brain inflammation probably, but definitely
Mhm.
gut inflammation and around all your vital organs.
Yeah.
Uh, because your body's like working overdrive to process all this bull you're putting inside of it, you know,
Right.
especially like sugar and like craft beer and anything like junk food. Like your body really isn't, we didn't develop with the ability to like process that stuff easily. So
Hmm.
it's just like it's on overdrive and that's why you get fat. Your body is like swelling up, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's something that I read. This was a long time ago, so it might be like out of date, or there's been more research to disprove it, or maybe even more prove it. I don't know. But it was talking about like the third. diabetes, right? There's type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And then they were talking about like, well, Alzheimer's might be like type 3 diabetes because
Really?
they were studying people's brains who have Alzheimer's, and there's like a specific type of plaque that develops like on the brain, and they correlate like that type of plaque with sugar consumption. So they're saying like if you consume too much sugar, it causes that inflammation of the brain, which then causes these memory loss issues, which I think is like an interesting um up or an interesting like factoid, I guess, just like how long-term ramifications of constantly consuming these high sugars, highly processed foods can start affecting like your brain. And it's like, wow, I
Oh
let me
yeah.
avoid that at all costs. No thank
Yeah.
you.
No, that would make a lot of sense. And it's definitely like the silent killer in America.
Well, which one?
Like the junk food industry and like
Yeah.
health. It's
And
what
it's
like 60% of adults in America are obese now. Like what the hell is that?
there's a health component that you came to realize like at the very beginning of this episode. You started with like, I could see where I was headed, and I knew that that wasn't a good spot. Like all the negatives that come with being overweight, like that was going to be in your future. Like there's no
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
thing it.
Uh and I understand why a lot of people just like kind of bury their head in the sand because I did for a while.
Hmm.
Because it is hard to like I think with anything in life to accept like, oh, I'm slowly killing myself in a way.
Yeah.
Like chain smokers,
Yeah.
you know, uh, people that are overweight, they're essentially addicted to food,
Hmm.
and it's the one addiction that like it's very visibly noticeable.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it's the most prevalent addiction in our country right now.
Oh,
At
for
least,
sure.
definitely. I mean, 60% of adults have the addiction, and it
Right.
is an addiction. And I think our society we need to emphasize that more. Like, it's not necessarily these people's fault that they're addicted to food,
Right.
but it's definitely their fault if they stay that way.
Yeah, there has to be some sense of ownership of like your body and accountability to the decisions you make that impact your body.
Mm.
And going back to the, you know, sugar like itself is one of the most addictive substances or foods that you can consume. Like even I think if they I think people have done this, but when you lay it out, it's like sugar beats nicotine in terms of an addictive substance. And that's never talked about how much people become dependent on it, and they train their body to get their dopamine fix off of a sugar high. And like I have the biggest sweet tooth of anyone that I know. I love sugar, I love candy or chocolate, I guess, and
It
it's
doesn't show.
not good for me. I know it does
It
show. Like I
doesn't.
got back fat, man. I'm trying to work on it. My diet is trash, but I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to make changes. And that's but like you were saying, a lot of folks are trained or to consume that sugar, and that's where they get their high from. But you just described how you were able to, reprogram your brain to get your um excitement or joy from not eating, which I think
Oh
is
yeah,
an interesting point, how you can, reprogram your body and your mind to associate, what most folks might consider a negative of being hungry as like, no, that's actually a positive. And of course it can become, very dangerous if you go to the extreme and become like anorexic and everything, where you're
definitely.
afraid to eat food because you're worried about your health and your body image. But for folks that all they know is eating, it's like, well, there has to be a balance between feeling hungry and feeling full all the time. It's good to have both. Like you need to eat, obviously, but you don't need to overeat, and gain you can learn a lot of lessons about yourself by not eating. Like, what do you look like when you're hangry all the time? Like, That's one of the reasons why I'm worried about starting a fasting diet is like I'm gonna be hangry and I'm gonna be mean and I don't want to do that.
For me, I just got really loopy.
Really?
Yeah.
Just a happy-go-lucky hungry
Which
boy.
I kind of am anyway, so nothing really changed. But yeah, real quick before we touch on that, I want to go back to the addiction part because
Oh,
you're
sure.
you're talking about how sugar is more addictive than like nicotine.
Mhm.
That's true. Uh, I forget years ago I read a study, uh, like sugar and like the junk food in general, because sugar's in like it's in freaking everything nowadays. The high people like that, like I was, get from the food they love, or like sugar in general. It's they looked at like a brain scan of like the dopamine receptors or whatever going off. And
Mm.
I'm an idiot for anyone listening, so I'm probably explaining it terribly. But they look at a brain scan of someone consuming sugar and someone doing heroin. I think it was heroin, and they're almost identical
Wow.
because it's like incredibly intense but short lasting. That's why you
Mm.
keep going back for more. That's why you can't just have one Dorito.
Interesting.
Like that kind of thought. Like it's literally a food addiction.
Yeah.
Like the processed stuff, like the sugary BS, like milkshakes or like I won't diss cheeseburgers because I think they're good for you.
I love cheeseburgers.
Yeah, but stuff like that. It gives you a huge dopamine explosion,
Mhm.
and then it dies after like a minute.
Wow.
So then you just keep going back. You're just trying to get that fix,
Yeah.
and that's why the fasting, especially if you're in a place where like you drastically need like a lifestyle change, definitely do the fasting. Definitely do what I did because I think it's the only like long-term solution to fixing it.
Mm.
Because like I've pretty much, for the most part, completely eliminated those bad habits. Like all occasionally, I got to the point where like I'm not doing the fasting every day a week. I haven't done a fast in like months, probably like 6 months, and like I've still continued to lose weight, which
Wow.
is nice. Yeah, thanks. Like I'm down to 212, which like at my peak weight in high school, like when I was doing lacrosse and like strength and body twice a day, I was still like 215 pounds.
Wow.
Like I've never been skinny.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but anyway, like, yeah, if you want a long-term solution to for weight loss, definitely look into intermittent fasting. Definitely watch the video in the link. But ultimately, it just comes to like finding what works for you, and that worked for me, and it very effectively worked for me. But I was also I was lifting weights 3 times a week,
yeah. Mhm.
and then I got into David Goggins,
Oh,
and then I
yeah.
started running. And if you know anything about David Goggins, he had like a very similar story, but way more intense than mine, like incredibly more intense. Uh, so I think at his peak weight, he was like 280 plus, something like that. I can't quite
Yeah.
remember.
Yep.
So kind
Yeah.
of similar place to me. He was like an ex-Army Ranger and then kind of ballooned up after he got out. And then he was watching like a Navy SEAL, the Hell Week documentary on TV. And he's like, I wish I want to be doing that. Like, I'm gonna do that. And he just kind of decided like that's what I want to do. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do. And like just single-mindedly went after that. And I think in under 6 months, he was down to 180 pounds, I think.
Yeah.
And over the course of a winter, like he had some like absolutely insane routine. You should read his book if you want to like I know you've read the book for the
No,
audience.
I haven't read it actually. It's on
Uh,
my list.
I thought you did the audiobook.
I have the audiobook downloaded on my
Uh,
watch. So once I get to it, I'll be getting to it. I want to listen
uh,
to it while I go running. But yeah, I know he
dude, so motivating. Because
yeah,
I had already lost like 40, 50 pounds when I found him, and I was like, I'm relating to this so much. And then his big thing is he became a Navy SEAL, and then he became like an ultra marathon runner. And
yeah,
that's my one thing where like my whole life I've sucked at running. Like
yeah,
I'm just not designed for it. Like I was built for bodybuilding. Like that's just my build.
yeah.
Uh and he was like the one video that got me was like, "You think I run cuz I like it? I run cuz it makes me better. I freaking hate running." Like that kind of thing. I was like, this guy gets it.
This
So
guy gets
so then I started running. Uh Over last winter, I started like in December, I think, and I can
Mhm.
check my Strava again. But I went from like barely being able to run a little over a mile over like the course of a month or two. I was running like 5 miles at a
Awesome.
time. Thanks, dude. But like slow pace. I think it was
Oh
like
yeah.
11-minute mile, and I killed my feet because I was still like just too big to be running that
Oh
long,
really?
and I just did it way too fast.
Hey,
But anyway,
body
I was
adapt.
like, I got the David Goggins mentality. Like, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
But then I got bronchitis after I did a 5 mile run in like 10-degree weather at like whatever, I don't know. It was just cold as shit, because I was doing it all outside.
yeah.
And so I got like super sick for like 2 days. I was like, maybe I should slow down.
Yeah. Uh,
uh,
That's like so incredibly impressive. And yeah, like the
Thanks,
Goggins
dude.
thing, he's very much like a mind over matter type of guy. And
Oh
he
yeah.
just he locks into this like mentality of no matter what, I'm going to accomplish this goal, whatever it is. And like ultra marathons, those are like what, 100 miles or something like that. Well, there's 100-mile races that he participates in, and then there's like 30 plus mile runs and stuff like that. And he does it on the regular. And normally, if you're doing a 100-mile run, you're out for like 6 months because your feet hurt. Like you can't go, you can't do it. But his mindset is like, no, I will do it because it's all in my mind. And so then he went, I think, what did he do? He did eight, eight 100-mile runs 8 weeks in a row. Just like something incredibly outrageous that normally, people wouldn't do eight 100 miles runs in like 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He did it in 8 weeks, like 2 months. It's like, that's ridiculous.
It's
You're a
insane.
crazy
Yeah.
person. But
But like he proved that you can do it.
yeah, he locked in. The mentality, the discipline that he has, and he wrote this book. I think it's called "Can't Hurt Me," and
Mm.
it just is. I haven't read it yet, but I want to. It's on my list, and I guess Michael, you're the testimony of how it's an incredibly inspiring, like
Oh
discipline.
yeah. And
Got you into running as like someone who doesn't run.
yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd be able to run 5 miles at a time ever. Like
Yeah,
even at my peak like fitness in high school when I was on like the lacrosse like varsity lacrosse team,
yeah,
I was still like the slowest kid out there. But and I still am. But now I got the distance part.
yeah. And that's yeah, I'm just right now like I don't care about speed. I'm also cranking out, 11-minute miles, but it's for me I'm just trying to get miles under the shoes. Not I
Yeah.
don't really care about how fast I
Oh,
am.
good for you, man. I need to set my routine back up. Uh, that's
Yeah,
my biggest goal for the new year, I think.
dude. Yes,
Getting
man.
back
Oh,
into it.
what are your goals for the new year? I know you're ringing in the new year with no drinking. You're doing a 30-day challenge without drinking. That's pretty sweet.
Thanks, dude. I guess I don't really know. I haven't thought about it yet.
Yeah.
I need to get
I
some champagne in me first.
Yeah, dude, get those buzzed goals, super ambitious, just like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm gonna do everything, man."
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna become an astronaut.
Oh, dude, that's a goal right there. Man, I guess
If
that's
only.
is that crazier than Goggins wanting to be a Navy SEAL?
Yeah.
It
Oh, yeah.
is.
Probably.
Well, that's awesome, Mike. I think this is probably a good place to wrap up, but dude,
Yeah,
thank you
man.
so much for sharing your story, and I
Dude,
really
thank you,
appreciate you
buddy.
coming on here.
That was fun.
I think your story is like so inspiring. It's so sick. Like, you know, he
Thanks,
did
man.
it. This everyone who makes excuses and it's like, no, I know someone who did it and is successful at it and has more discipline than me. So it's just like,
I
damn.
wouldn't say, dude, I haven't, I've been off the wagon. But thanks,
Oh,
man.
me
Like,
too. Ever since
and
November, I've been off the wagon.
you say like he did it, and it's like fitness. I think is something that like you just don't stop, and it needs to be like a constant in your life until
Yeah.
you die. And what
Right.
you need to have something going on. Otherwise, like your body just like,
Atrophies and yeah,
yeah,
becomes a shriveled up piece of nothing. Like you need to,
mm,
and that's what I talk about with Brian a lot is like lifting and maintaining health. It's not for those like short term like goals, the immediate gratification. For me, it's very much like I'm lifting weights now so that I can lift weights when I'm 80. That's what I want to be doing. And if I don't
yeah,
lift now, like it's harder and harder to get back into it.
hmm,
But we're
yeah,
young. We can do it.
yeah. We're young, and I mean, it's like anything. If you just keep at it, and for me, the lifestyle change.
Yes.
Because if you don't make it a lifestyle change, then like it's only going to be short term, and then you're going to fall back in the same habits. Which like I don't know like I'm off the wagon right now, so I'm in danger of doing that. So I want to
Oh,
avoid that. So not that
hey,
I'm in act, you know what I'm saying.
no,
You
I
know.
don't. No, man, I think you're doing good stuff. New year, 2023, we're getting back into it. So,
Hey, let's do it.
but all right, brother, let's call it a wrap. Thanks for the podcast, dude. And for everyone
Improve
who's listening,
podcast.
improve podcast. But
Hey,
for everyone who's listening, dude, you can do it.
you
Build
can
those
do it.
lifestyle
Yeah,
changes.
yeah. Do what I did. It's easy.
Intermittent fast.
You
Starve
you
yourself.
have yeah.
Don't
You
do
don't have
it.
to do anything.
Don't do it. All right, bye, Craig.
See you, Craig.
Whoa, hello everyone. I hope you all enjoyed that podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed recording it with Michael. I'm so glad that he was willing to share his story with you all because I think it's such an important journey that he went on and I wanted to capture that in some way, if not for this podcast, just in general, documenting your progress as you go through major like life transformation instances is always good to sort of document and talk about. And Michael deserves some kudos, man. Having that type of discipline is super impressive, and I'm just really grateful for him. As far as updates for me from this week, I'm still working on my screenplay. I can't wait to give you all like an in-depth major update, but I'm still making progress on that. I've sort of, as far as health goals go, I sort of have put a pause on running. I want to get back to it next week. I'll let you know if that happens. But I am getting back into the gym, waking up those muscles for the new year. Super pumped. I love being sore. I think that's a feeling that not too many people enjoy, but it tells me that like I'm alive and that my body is here and awake and it's working hard. So I've learned to love when my body is in that state of recovery. As far as everything else goes, if you want to get in contact with me about your goals or any projects you're working on, shoot me an email at theimprovepodcast@gmail.com. I love hearing from y'all and knowing that, we're not alone in this game of life, and we're all working towards things. So yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, go ahead and do that. I want to give a shout out to Green Bean, aka Mike, for all of our musical intros and outros. Huge shout out to him. And I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for leaving a 5-star review. And with that, be sure to sign up for the Classic Studios newsletter. I also posted a blog for this month, so if you wanted some more behind-the-scenes type stuff, go to classicstudios.com, CLSCstudios.com to do that. And I think that's everything for me. So goodbye, everyone. I hope you achieve your goals this week, and I'll see you Monday for another episode of the Improve Podcast. Goodbye.
Podcast.